Horrific atrocities, overcrowding, abuse of orderlies. Pennhurst Asylum was made infamous when a documentary shone light on the institution. I was fortunate to be able to join a ghost investigation one time, and I had quite the experience. Here are my stories. 1. First contact. We got to Pennhurst right before sunset, so we did some exploring in the daylight to familiarize ourselves with some of the buildings we'd be in at dark. We based ourselves in the front room, first floor of Mayflower Building, the children's building. As we explored, I felt compelled to declare my intentions after greeting, "Hello, I'm just here to say hi, maybe talk with some of you. I mean no disrespect, just interested in what you may have to tell me." Or something along those lines. Well, night fell, and they decided we'd all start as one big group in the basement of Mayflower. It was a room used as the playroom for the children. We sat in a big circle, said a prayer, and did a sort of ritual blessing for spiritual protection to keep us safe from that we may have met that night. At one point, we turned off all our flashlights to sit in the dark and possibly make contact. Well, I did. Shortly after all the lights went out, I felt a small hand graze my spine, like a small child clumsily gropes for a parent. All my hair stood on end, and it felt a bit like ice water going down my back. Then my hair was tugged, and I cried out, and everyone put their lights back on. I think everyone was on edge and could tell we were not alone. I explained how my hair was tugged, and I wasn't the only one, apparently. It came time for us to break up into smaller groups, but before we did, we all kind of filed outside to grab drinks from the coolers or use the porta potty before breaking up. I didn't have to do anything, so I just hung out around everyone. I had a device with me that supposedly could detect energy. Basically, if it lit up and went crazy, something was near. Well, I was just right outside Mayflower, and ever since the touch down my back, device was acting up off and on. When I walked outside, it seemed to start up whenever I'd go to turn around. You know how kids play behind your back, trying to hide from you, but you're bigger and quicker so you can catch them? This was exactly what it was doing. I got the feeling this was a mischievous little boy. I wasn't exactly wrong. 2. Perverted Ghost in the basement of Mayflower. After breaking up, the group I was with went back down to the basement of Mayflower and went to a room in the middle of the basement, not all the way back to the room we started in, but halfway. Apparently, it was a room belonging to a doctor who wasn't the nicest guy. He was mostly a product of his times, the 60s. He would slap nurses' rears, make comments, etc. However, he also molested the children, or so my fellow investigators were told. My crew hoped to make contact with the doctor's ghost. We explored the room, everyone filing over to a bathroom with toilets, etc., sinks. It was a public bathroom, like in a school. I hung back, not sure why, but I just had to settle in. Then I eventually made my way over to join everyone to see what they were looking at. Just as I stepped in the doorway of the room, my butt was strongly grabbed and pulled upward like someone really wanted a handful, and how playful friends are wont to do. I asked if anyone was behind me and snapped around to catch someone simultaneously, only to be answered with, "No, we're all in here." It happened so quick I almost couldn't believe it had happened at all. I told them how I distinctly felt a hand grab my right butt cheek, and they all laughed nervously with me and said it was probably the doctor. "He must like you," my one friend said. I was slightly concerned, but nothing after that much happened. 3. The girl on first floor back room in Mayflower. If I remember correctly, the next happening occurred with my friend Shelby and another girl with the crew I didn't know so well. The crew knew the ghost in this back room and that she was a teen girl, I'd guess, and she was scared off by men, so no males could investigate the room with any success, so they left it up to us. I forget the name of the girl, but they told me a bit about her and her story, even though I'd rather not have been told anything. But it wasn't long before I could tell we weren't alone. We turned off all lights, but for once we weren't in pitch dark. The moon was brightly shining through the windows, so it wasn't so scary. That's when I noticed it. A little red dot like a laser pointer dot, but not by the radiator. I was sitting in a chair with my back to the corner of the small room, Diagonally from me was the abandoned hospital bed, surely belonging to the ghost girl when she lived. I was not, however, prepared for somehow seeing her but not seeing her in my mind's eye while looking at the red dot. I saw her nervously tapping the radiator with her one hand and looking unsure at whether or not to trust us, somewhat like an animal ready to pounce or fight or flee. Instinctively, I spoke out calmly to her while also quietly explaining to the girls how I could see her. I calmly, like a mother to a child, told her, "Hi, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid of us. It's okay. We won't hurt you. That's it. See, we can't hurt you. If anything, you could hurt us." She jumped from the floor to the bed and curled up, sometimes reaching out as if she wanted to touch us, but always shrinking back and rocking. Then it hit me. Gripping terror, fear, sadness. Tears formed in my eyes, and I knew I was feeling everything the girl felt. As it built, the others felt it too, and we knew it was time to go. We said our thank you goodbyes and left. 4. Third floor Mayflower Ghosts. This part of the night was the least impressive, but there was a group of 6 of us, and we went up to the top floor of Mayflower and set up in the room all the way at the end of the hall. Nothing much was happening, despite us having toys, a ball, and a noise/music playing light-up toddler toy we were trying to get the ghost children to use. Apparently, there were at least a boy and a girl that haunted the 3rd floor, and some of my friends that had been here before had made contact with them previously. Someone suggested we sing children's songs to encourage them to come and play, so we started singing songs. I'm not sure what song we were singing when we heard it, but as we sang, there was an echo back clearly from children's voices. We echoed each other back and forth, then the toddler toy lit up, and one of the girls with us lost it and needed to take a break. She was just freaked out, and nothing had happened all night for her till that point. That made her a believer, she said. 5. The Evil in Devon Hall. I'll preface this story by starting with saying Devon Hall is built like a maze. This makes it much creepier at night than in the day. There was a giant puddle in the one room we had to be careful getting by to get in the building. Also, there was a scary-looking mural someone had done of a demon, probably some kids goofing around at one point, on a wall. The feeling when I walked in was not like the feeling of Mayflower. Perhaps it was the labyrinth build of the place, but I was not a fan walking in there. We walked our way to the basement and did some EVP recording downstairs, then made our way to either the 1st or 2nd floor for a longer investigation. We sat ourselves down in the hall. I made the mistake of sitting down right by a doorway, which one of our party had just pointed out that a shadow figure he saw had walked into the room through a second doorway next to the one that I was sitting next to. It was like in the wall there were 2 doors, 2 entryways, somewhat like a cafeteria room. I thought I had seen this shadow figure at the same time the whole time I felt we were being followed through Devon, and I had brushed seeing it off until the other psychic mentioned it. I have no idea why I thought it was okay to sit so near the door, but space in the hallway was limited, so I kind of just plopped down there. The dreaded lights out investigation segment came, and we went pitch dark. Fear built in my chest in the dark, and I didn't want to look up, but I found myself anyway looking at the doorway. Kneeling at my level, the shadow figure, seemingly human in shape, reached toward me and tried to touch me. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt the most unnatural fear and anxiety at this thing reaching out to touch me and being so close, meters away, inches away, not even. I begged and pleaded in my head for it not to touch me, simultaneously telling my crew what was going on. Perhaps they saw it too. I begged them to let me turn my light on, and they heard the fear in my voice and allowed me to click on my light, which I was all too happy to do. As soon as I turned my light on, it retreated and disappeared, but I was shaken. They were satisfied with the session, and we were on our way back to Mayflower. I was all too happy to be gone from Devon Hall and told the psychic medium how I felt it had to be demonic. It was just so dark, it seemed to be putting on a disguise to me. I'll be fine if I never set foot in Devon ever again. 6. He jumped between us. We took another short break while some of the crew were finishing up their time in Mayflower. We were careful not to cross-contaminate noise during investigation. This time we split our group of 6 into pairs of 2. Shelby decided to team up with me and go to the basement playroom where we started our night. We were somewhat limited to what rooms and buildings we could be in, so most of the night was in this room. Shelby and I get down there and expect to make contact with someone, but it seemed like things were calming down. We decided to turn off our lights and try to catch EVP. Shelby had a recorder and I had my light-up device. She stood diagonally from me and I stood facing the right corner of the room. As soon as our lights went off, a white-blue light appeared, and it happened slow but quick, but it was a little boy. He came running toward me. You know how excited little toddlers toddle over to grab onto the leg of a parent? It was like that. He got so close to me, I could make out the follicles of hair on his head. And I'm not sure why, but I didn't want him to run into me, and I held my finger out at him like, no, 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 and I was freaking out inside my head. Right before he would have made impact with my shins, he seemed to jump away, and I just saw he wasn't there anymore. That's when Shelby exclaimed, "Whoa, did you see that? It jumped and flew up between us." I told her exactly what had just happened, and we clicked on our flashlights and couldn't believe what had happened. Time was running out, and we were called upstairs to change partners and do one last investigation before night's end. 7. Flashlight conversation. I felt so drained at this point in the night. As successful as things had gone, I was ready to go and sleep. But there was one more hour or so of investigation. The male psychic's girlfriend decided she wanted to team up with me for the last investigation, and she wanted to go down to the basement playroom. We went downstairs, got ourselves set up, and she set up a chair and put her flashlight on it, slightly loosening the twist mechanism. She explained to my quizzical look that it is possible to communicate with spirits using twist flashlights, asking yes or no questions and asking the spirit to turn the light off once for yes and twice for no, or off and then back on for yes or leave it off for no. I was skeptic that we'd have any luck with this, but figured I'd try to ask things with her anyways. She started by asking if anyone was with us. It went off for a yes. Then she asked, "Are you male or female?" Turn back on for male, leave off for female. It turned back on, strong. Just then I could tell he was a preteen to teen age, and got somewhat of an idea of the boy in my mind. At some point I remember her asking if the boy found either of us attractive, to which the response was no. I chuckled at that. I got the feeling this boy still felt girls had cooties despite his age. As the conversation continued, we began asking deeper questions. My friend mostly led and asked if there is a heaven. The response was yes. I knew it before the response, and I was filled with such a peaceful feeling as I knew the answer and the spirit revealed it simultaneously. She then asked if there is a heaven, why isn't the spirit there and here instead, which I felt was rude. I got the feeling he didn't know the answer, was just, I don't know. I saw the shrug. He was indifferent. It was like he didn't know why he couldn't move on. I felt instantly at that same time that he was like trapped. I don't remember much after that, but I think it got irritated by our questions and tired of exerting the energy to mess with the flashlight. It was the end of the night, and we thanked the spirits and left.